Right, good evening. Thank you for joining us. There is a very worrying situation brewing in Maharashtra. And joining me for this conversation right now is Priyanka Chaturvedi, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, also member of the Shiv Sena. Now, Ms. Chaturvedi has written a letter to Dr. Harshvardhan, the Health Minister of the Government of India. Now, in this letter, she's reiterated that Maharashtra is running out of vaccinations. Now, this is the third person representing the Maharashtra government who's made this statement. First of all, is the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, who wrote to the Prime Minister asking for a supply of more doses of the vaccine. We've also had a statement now from the Health Minister of Maharashtra, Mr. Tope, who has said that several districts have begun running out of the vaccine. The Mayor of Mumbai, Ms. Kishori Pednekar, has also made a statement saying Mumbai will run out of vaccines, and it's expected that this will happen around Thursday this week, because that's the number of vaccines that the state has left. Now, as a response to this, we've had the central government put out a statement. Mr. Harshvardhan has put out a statement saying there is no shortage of vaccines in this country, and the central government will make sure that no such shortage exists. So it's really now which word do we really need to take? But for the citizens of Mumbai and Maharashtra, the numbers themselves are incredibly worrying. Mumbai reporting over 10,000 cases in the last 24 hours. Maharashtra accounting for more than half of the cases being reported across the country. So where is the solution? Ms. Chaturvedi joins me this evening. Good evening, Ms. Chaturvedi. Thank you for joining us. What is your response to the fact that the central government has said that there is no vaccine and everybody will get whatever they requested?
Firstly, the kind of political statement that has come from the Honorable Health Minister on a very valid demand, on a very justified demand, and the numbers that they have also shared, that what is in stock with us and what is in the pipeline, just goes to show there is an acute shortage. Many districts in Amravati are facing shortage. Gondia has almost stopped vaccinating. In Mumbai, we have run short of Covaxin. Many of the hospitals are not giving Covaxin because we do not have the stock. We have also told this to the health minister. For him to make this a 4-page letter against Maharashtra and come up with all the political accusations that he has, it is very astonishing, astounding, and also depressing at a time when we are in the grip of a second wave, not just in Maharashtra, across the country. Just because Maharashtra is doing more tests, is also being transparent in its data and numbers, for you to sit back and just hit out instead of helping out, just speaks of your intent to not help, not to cooperate, but just to make on political brownie points. And for him to say that there is enough stock, then why is he making such a UN cry about it? Then might as well hand over what the Chief Minister, Honorable Chief Minister, asked to the Prime Minister of this country for about 150 crore vaccines so that we can vaccinate everybody. So these are things which should not be in the political domain. Unfortunately, the Union Health Minister has chosen to make it political, so it deserves a political response.
Well, there was also a request that came from the government to allow Maharashtra to vaccinate everyone above the age of 25. The central government has said that that is not possible right now. Would you explain to us why the government of Maharashtra believes that everyone above the age of 25 needs to be vaccinated?
So the Prime Minister of India, in many of his rallies in 2014, had spoken about India's demographic dividend. What is India's demographic dividend? When we speak about demographic dividend, when we are largely a population is that of youth between 21 years of age to 45 years of age, is what we call demographic dividend. Large part of our working population are those who are from the age of 21 to the age of 40, 45. So if we are saying that expand the scope of vaccination, these are the people who step out of their homes for their jobs, for studies, for higher education, and they are the ones susceptible to get COVID and maybe unknowingly spread it at home amongst the senior citizens who reside with them. What is the harm in taking it beyond 45 years of age when we are a country with a large population of young people, young workforce? I have spoken to many industry bodies, and let me be clear, Faye, it has nothing to do with politics. Maharashtra has a lot of young population which is out there working. Lots of these industry bodies which are working in Maharashtra have said 80% of our staff is below 45 years of age, and we want to vaccinate them, but we cannot because of the guidelines put by the center. So if we send that request across, for you to say, oh, this is a want-based request, this is not a need-based request, I'm sorry. It is the need of the hour to vaccinate as many people as we can. fundamental right to life is something which is part of the basic rights, human rights, whether it's a 1-year-old
Mr.
or a
Chaturvedi,
25-year-old.
the union government could argue that, listen, every senior citizen is the priority because they're obviously at a larger risk to this virus. And if we divert all of the vaccines to Maharashtra for the young people, we'll be taking it away from, the older folk in other states. Isn't that a valid argument?
No, absolutely not. Not that Maharashtra is saying, listen, you don't give to the other states and you give us. What we are saying is, we are not making an argument for 25-year-olds in Maharashtra. We are saying do that for the entire nation. Every nation with a young population. That's why I continue to say it's a nation with a young population. So every nation has to, a nation has to go beyond that guideline that you have put in force. USA is doing that. UK very shortly will do it. And India's demography is very different from that of the US and the UK. We are a generally young population. And so if we are stepping out, then might as well be able to vaccinate them as well. And it increases the vaccine coverage. So that is the only thing. We are not asking if anyone's rights to be taken away. Everyone has the right, but everyone should also have the access. Everyone should also have the ability to be able to walk inside and say that whether they want a vaccine or they don't want a vaccine. It's a voluntary vaccination drive. So
right.
allow them to decide.
Let me show you this set. And to be fair, I understand you wouldn't have seen it because it's actually come up. It's been posted while we were talking. This is the PTI that's put up a news flash that says the central government has written to Maharashtra, Punjab, and Delhi governments flagging below par vaccination of eligible beneficiaries, including healthcare workers. So effectively, the central government is saying these three states have not done a good job so far in vaccinating those people who are already eligible. And here you are asking for those outside of that bracket of eligibility. Would you be able to respond to this?
Absolutely, I'd want to respond to this. The reason why the center has targeted these three states, very clearly when you read it, it's a non-BJP state. Secondly, these are the states which have demanded for relaxation of the age limit that the central government has said. And thirdly, when he says below par vaccination, let me tell you that Maharashtra is leading India's vaccination drive. If you look at the larger populated states, let's say in Uttar Pradesh, not that I'm trying to belittle any state, but Uttar Pradesh has covered about 3% of its population. Maharashtra has covered over 7% of its population, which is above India's national average. For them to accuse health workers, now let me come to health workers. Health workers, 86% of Maharashtra's health workers have been covered in this drive. Remember, it's a voluntary vaccination program. You cannot force every health worker and come and say, so 86%, if you look in absolute numbers, considering the population of Maharashtra, you would realize it's doing better than many other states. But again, forget about that. What did last week, what did the central government do? They actually asked us to stop registering health workers and frontline workers because they believed that some people were misusing it. Why are people misusing it? I'll tell you why people are misusing it. Because you are denying a large section of population to get a vaccine. If you make it accessible, they won't use these networks that they seem to have. So what you need to do is open up. The minute you regulate, you're denying an entire population from the benefits of vaccination, which is basic right to life. This is all I'm trying to say. The central government, Maharashtra government, has followed to the T whatever has come from the central government in terms of permission, non-permissions. We have worked around it. It was never about politics. The intent was to ensure there's maximum coverage. But for them to find politics in it and now accuse the three state governments shows of their political mindset rather than a mindset to come out of COVID.
Well, Aman Peshawari is asking this question, and I meant to ask this of you as well. While the government has, at least in Mumbai, Maharashtra, closed everything and given us a sense on the street, it feels like last year, to be very honest. At the same time, the students in the 10th and the 12th standard, including in the state board, which the state government controls, are expected to take their examinations physically in a school. I don't understand how these two things actually reconcile. Why hasn't the state government decided to either cancel or postpone these examinations to be held on the 24th of April?
There are a couple of things I tell them here, and because my son also is part of the 12th and he's also demanding that this should go online, but I make this a larger point of view. Many parents have also come forward and said that it would mess up the NEET exams, it's other exams that their children are willing to give. There are many parents of the point of view that till how long will our children continue to give these online exams? I'm not making a case for not, making it, taking it offline or taking it online. All I'm saying is that, yes, I stand by the students' demands and I would hope that we find a solution to it. But there are other parameters also that we need to keep in mind. ICSE board is not the state board.
Yes.
ICSE will also do something which is decided at the center. Then you have a CBSE board. Then you have an IB board. Then you have an IGCSE board. That doesn't come under the state government's purview. But yes, I do agree with the question asked. SSE and HSE is something which come under the state government purview. And that is something, with all humility at my command, I'd say, and with all, I would say, with all due respect to the students' demand, we will look into it. And I will also make a case for it as far as the state education minister is concerned.
Ms. Chaturvedi, would you give us an update right now on the shortage of oxygen or ventilators in the state? Because we've seen reports saying the state government has asked for oxygen from neighboring states and stopped private industry that uses oxygen as raw material from using oxygen right now. What is the status of oxygen availability in the state?
No, as far as availability is concerned, we must understand that we have to prepare for the worst. And we are seeing, we are hitting new peaks almost every single day. So we also have to be prepared. So yes, the state government is totally prepared to handle the caseload. But all we are expecting in return is that for people to understand COVID appropriate behavior. And yes, there is a lockdown. There's also a lot of bitterness coming up with regards to that. I've seen a lot of Twitter accounts, tweets which have become popular. But the point is that this has to be a joint initiative. The government can only do this much because if you look at the local governments also, for example, the BMC, while it's also vaccinating a large amount of population, it is also handling the COVID peak numbers. So they are also, totally stressed, but we are doing whatever is in our command. We just hope that we get similar cooperation coming from the residents of the state and we follow COVID appropriate behavior and get out of it sooner rather than later.
We've had traders across the city of Mumbai who have threatened to strike and have threatened to protest because they are upset about the fact they're going to be hurt one more time by another lockdown. Is the government considering a response to them?
Sabse pehle, I'd just like to mention one thing. We all appreciated the fact that the Prime Minister said, "Jaan hai to jahan hai." Right now, what is the need of the hour? Every country in the world, European nations are facing peaks which have been unheard of. Second wave is something that our chief minister, I think he was the only chief minister who continued to say, listen, there's a second wave coming, there's a second wave coming. Let's continue to follow COVID appropriate behavior. Unfortunately, we all, obviously, there is also a feeling of, for how long are we going to carry this out? But at a time when, we have to look at the lives that are getting lost, the amount of, ambulances, sirens that you hear, the tweets that come that we're not getting hospital beds, etc., help us with that. Maybe we'd understand what happens when we face a situation like this, and we'd cooperate with the state government. And obviously, as soon as there is COVID appropriate behavior, we see a control in numbers. There's no reason why any government would want to not allow them to, continue with their livelihoods.
Well, we must address, and I must ask you, Ms. Chaturvedi, about the fact that Maharashtra is in fact reporting shocking numbers on a day-to-day basis. The state of Maharashtra and the city of Mumbai has never reported numbers this bad all through last year. Every day when I sit down to write the news, I'm shocked at the numbers that we're looking at. Did Maharashtra drop the ball between the first wave and the second wave? Did we let our guard down? Weren't we prepared? Because we were seeing what was happening in Europe. We saw it hit Kerala in the wave, and we were, based on last year's movement, we were next. How did we manage to let it get this bad?
No, I don't think it is about the state government. Please understand, when we were, I would say, unlocking the entire process after lockdown, the unlock process began. We also very cautiously started opening up. We were also criticized that we are opening up at a very slow pace. But when it happened, you also see the entire human population, which has been held back, is coming out in larger numbers. They all started to believe there is a vaccine, so we are all safeguarded. But we are also getting the vaccine numbers. We are hearing numbers of vaccines just being shields. You can also get COVID positive. It may not be as serious as, without a vaccine. But those are things that we are learning and figuring. But in terms of building, a state government can build capacities. The state government can be prepared for the worst. A state government can unlock because we have an economy to look after. But we also need to understand that COVID had gone nowhere, which the chief minister kept saying. COVID would come in a bigger manner. He kept saying. He continued to wear his mask. He continued to not let his guard down. It is upon us as residents now to ensure that we go back to being a lot more cautious than we were, in that belief that there is a vaccine now, we are all safe and we can all step out. We are showing lesser numbers, so there is no COVID. So state government was prepared for this. I don't know if we as people were prepared for something to hit us as fast as this. It's a second wave is there, and it is something, a reality which we have to live with.
With due respect to the state government, you're also going through right now a political crisis. The Home Minister has just resigned. He has just been replaced. Also, as of 3 hours ago, suspended police officer Sachin Vaze has submitted to the NIA court a handwritten letter accusing not just Anil Deshmukh, but also Anil Parab of your party of corruption. Now, first of all, I want your response on that accusation of corruption, because this is not the NCP, this is the Shiv Sena. And secondly, how do we have faith at this point in a state government that's going through a terrible political storm? What are you going to keep your focus on?
I would firstly say that our focus is very clearly on COVID. Second is all political bickering that has been sponsored at the behest of center and central agencies like the NIA, like the ED, the IT, the CBI. Which of them was not used in earlier cases too, ever since our government has formed? Whether it was sending ED, whether it was sending CBI for a police investigation, whether using other tactics to try and make political storm out of nothing at all. Now, as far as this case is concerned, ATS was doing its job and we would have known who is responsible for what. But now using NIA to get handwritten letters, you don't know whether it was done under duress or no. But all I can say, I have known Anil Parabji in the party, and anyone who has worked with him would laugh off something as silly as this, the accusation that is coming. Because if there is an honest man in political system, it is him, someone who works 24/7, 365 days for the city of Mumbai, for his state. And I think it's a ridiculous charge. Maybe I don't know if it's under pressure, but like I've always maintained, the truth will eventually come out. We know what happened of the Sushant Singh Rajput case. The CBI still hasn't, filed its report, because we know why. Because they came under political pressure from the center. The center can continue to do this. A health minister can write a 4-paragraph anti-Maharashtra rant if he wants to. People of Maharashtra are very clear where this is heading.
Ms. Chaturvedi, Sachin Vaze was a Sena man. At least those of us who function as reporters in this city, we know that. He's been a Sena man for a very long time of your party. He was brought back into service after 16 years by the Shiv Sena themselves and defended by the chief minister after the Maharashtra ATS brought out a lot of his wrongdoing. Has this appointment costed this government more than they bargained for?
Two things. You've said two things. As reporters, you all knew that he was a Sena man. No, as reporters, you should know that yes, he did join the Sena for 1 year, after which he was no longer a Sena man. He was there for 1 year after his voluntary retirement. So you do not become a member for life, you seek membership again, which did not happen. One year was when he was a member. Second thing you said was that he was brought into by the government. No, again, a wrong accusation to make, because when Shri Parambir Singh came as a police commissioner of Mumbai, and we were also facing the COVID crisis, various other things were happening at the same time. There was a political attack happening from the center, etc. And Mumbai police in itself was very stretched. Mr. Parambir Singh made a case for Sachin Vaze to come back, because he said he has his own people who he'd want to work with. And it had nothing to do with the chief minister or for the Shiv Sena having to put in a word or whatever. I'm sorry, it has nothing to do. And again, for a former chief minister in his press conference to say something like that, he very well proved what he has said, because he can be held for defamation for that, but we are not getting into that. So to make those charges are unfounded. And again, for the chief minister to speak up on the floor of the house for Sachin Vaze, I think as the chief minister of the state, he will speak up for any policeman who is in the service of the state until he is proven guilty. So that, I think, is that is how justice works. That is how criminal justice works, systems work. For everyone to say, oh, you should start accusing them just because the political opposition is accusing a serving police officer, I think that is unfortunate. ATS was put in charge, ATS was investigating, and for any chief minister of any state, I think they would, and for that matter, even the prime minister will speak up for his army people, even if there are lots of accusations coming their way for their army men. So I think that is an incorrect comparison to make.
If we just, you have, of course, you are going to face a political storm, because whether you want to accept that Sachin Wazir is a Sena man or now NIA is functioning for the central government, as you have said, Sachin Wazir is handing out written letters that will shake the foundation of this government. But we also know that it was reported widely that Mr. Sharad Pawar and Mr. Praful Patel met with Mr. Amit Shah in Gujarat. Will this government survive this storm? Is there a problem in the partnership at all? Are there fault lines that are now showing?
No. See, when you have three political parties with three different ideas getting together, and this is the first model of its kind. Maharashtra state government that is functioning is, I think, the first model which has come forward to work for the state of Maharashtra. They could have political ideas which are differing from each other, but their intent for the state of Maharashtra is crystal clear, that they only have to take it ahead. So obviously there is going to be some differences when in terms of operation and how to operate. But that does not take away the fact that this government is functioning for the people of Maharashtra, and the chief minister's popularity rankings in itself shows. The state government, I have noticed on social media that whenever there is an attack on Twitter on him, there are people, genuine residents of Maharashtra, who come forward and fight for him. That is because his honesty of intent in the work he's doing is being appreciated by the people of the state. Now, in terms of that particular dinner that you spoke about, I think I cannot speak on behalf of NCP, but Mr. Jayant Patil, who's the state president, he has very categorically said that there was no such meeting, and it was all a media construct, what was fed to some sections of the media who made that a story. But like even Sharad Pawarji has said, our chief minister has also very clearly, through his work, has clarified that this alliance is something that will continue for the people of Maharashtra.
Ms. Chaturvedi, I've run out of the time that we agreed on, so I want to thank you for being generous with your time. I also want to make a request, if I may, before I let you go, to speak on behalf of the 10th and 12th standard students, at least on the state boards that are looked at by the education department of the government, for clarity on what's going to happen to their examinations. That would be much appreciated.
Absolutely. I can through your channel tell all the students who perhaps have joined you in this particular news section that I will speak up, I will take this up, and believe me, the pressure is not just coming from you all, it's coming from the home itself, and I will look into it and I will put my point of view across. So yes.
Right. Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Shiv Sena, Member of Parliament, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you.